Thanks very much for being here today.
Hey, man.
This is obviously CommonTime Pathways. I'm Eytan. We all know
Mike.
Yes. All right. Cool. And we're really lucky and privileged to be here with you, Omar. It would be wonderful to talk to you today. And I'm really excited about all the things that you've been doing. And for the folks who have been living under a rock and don't know who you are yet, can you give the 5-second, like, what's the coolest new thing that you're doing right now?
Coolest new thing I'm doing is basking in the afterglow of my big band record.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to stand in that for a minute because it took 16 years to make. It hasn't even been out for a year. So
That's
I think
right.
I'm allowed to bask in that glow for a little longer.
Yeah. Where can we hear it?
The answer is yes. It's
Yeah,
on all
everywhere.
the streaming platforms. And if you are an audiophile, there is a double LP available that you can grab at omarthomas.com.
You bought that,
It
right?
sounds really
Yeah.
good. I have one.
Yeah.
Can you just, for everybody else, just say the name of the album so they know what to
Yes,
search
of
right
course.
in
The
there?
name is GRIOT Songs, GRIOT
That's right.
Songs. And the name of the group is the Omar Thomas Large Ensemble.
That is a cool ensemble, and that's been in the works for a while too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we talk about the origin of the Omar Thomas Large Ensemble?
Yeah.
and
And actually,
how that
You guys are going to have a good time
no,
talking
this
about
is great.
this.
That group started off as my graduate recital band at NEC.
Yeah.
Put that group together to play my charts, because I was a graduating master's student and this was the culmination thing. And it went so well, we were like, we should not break up. We should do more. And then I hopped on the faculty at Berklee, which gave me access to spaces and to new musicians. And then we did a concert at David Friend Recital Hall, and we quickly outgrew that space and moved to the Berklee Performance Center. And then my dear, sweet, beloved Terry Lynn Carrington had
Boston
us.
too.
She had us do a slot at the Beantown Jazz Festival, and so we were just kind of.
Stefan Harris was on that, right?
Stefan Harris was on that gig. That's right.
That's cool.
So yeah.
So the timeline of your first record compared to like when the band started, when did that come out after forming the group?
That's
Was that
a
kind of
good
shortly
question. Yes, it was shortly after. And that was in big part funded by a faculty grant at Berklee.
Mm.
Yeah. So that was kind of soon. And actually the second record happened kind of soon after that too, relatively, because I'd gotten the
second record, We Will Know?
We Will Know.
Yeah.
And that was a Newberry Comics faculty fellowship. They
Oh,
paid
no
for that
kidding.
one.
Wow.
And as an EP, since it's a smaller record, it basically covered that. And then it's been a big ass chunk of time between that last one and this one. You know? And the funny thing is the music on this most recent record, a lot of it was written, most of it was written around the time or before We Will Know.
Really?
So I just had these charts in the ether and I knew. So the earliest charts on the most recent record were written in the fall of 2008. And the most recent chart, which is Be a Woman, our first single, was written in 2015.
Yep.
And so I just had this set of music and I knew, I was like, this is such a fire record. I just need to figure out how to do this right.
No
and doing
kidding.
it right involves paying musicians what they're worth and paying the engineers and everything. So it just took me a while to get all that together. And then, I had spent almost a decade at this point in the wind ensemble realm. And so taking what I learned orchestrationally from that realm and kind of going back and revisiting those charts and really questioning what the hell was I thinking in 2008? Why did I double this thing here? Why would I not put this here? This section doesn't work. I need a new section here, and just kind of spending 6 months doing surgery on all of those pieces.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I was really just curious about what the process was like starting with your first record and then 16 years later, how that was different for you, but also not only how was the session different, because I'm sure it was, but also preparing the charts, reorchestrating. You're saying what was it like to really go through all that stuff? And
well, it was amazing to me going back to that music and just seeing mistakes that in my older eyes were so obvious. I was like, why would I have done this? This didn't work to begin with.
Hindsight
So it was
is
actually
20/20.
exactly. So I felt like I could stand in the fact that I grew as a composer because I could see those things. And then, it's been over a decade since that music. I'm hearing things differently. I'm hearing harmonies differently. I'm trying new things. And so, for example, in Sail to the Moon, that whole aleatoric section was not in the original chart. you know?
Wow, that's cool.
But that is a later me that could then go back and say, this is what this piece needs now.
That's interesting because I listened to that this morning and I was struck by like how Maria Schneider influenced it was, but modern Maria Schneider.
Yeah.
And you studied with her for a period, right?
Yeah. So what that is I did, and I asked her permission a long time ago. I was like, is it okay that I can put your name in my bio? This is back in the days of IAJE, pre-gen.
Yeah.
Wow.
And back when they had a thing called a phone book. And right. That's how old I am.
I sat on one of those as a kid.
You sat on one? I sat on two to get my hair
I
cut.
used to hold my computer up with one of those.
Yeah, well, okay, well, see, we're talking about different things now.
Yeah.
But she was listed in the back, and it was, okay, so the reason she is so dear to me, and all of this is going to come back full circle, but I describe hearing her music for the first time like being a two-dimensional being seeing the third dimension for the first time.
Wow.
Because coming out of high school big band, you know, we did the Howlander charts. Very important music. Mark Taylor, Mike Tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
That was my idea of what big band was. And then, you know, going to
JMU.
Dude, well, the first, I'll never forget, it was the summer. And me and some friends were driving from Harrisonburg, Virginia to Charlottesville to play in a pit band for a musical over there. And you got to drive over Afton Mountain, you know, to get out the down. Exactly. And I'm in the middle of the back seat and they put on hang gliding. And my life started in that moment.
That changes everything.
Because I'm just like, what is happening? You know, literally, you don't think that big band could ever sound like that or be that. Changed my life. And so that year, we all took a trip up to IAJE, where Maria Schneider was one of the groups performing. And at that time, Concert in the Garden was new. And she did the entire record except for the title track. So she did the Sweet Three Romances and the closing track.
Bob was on that record, right?
Who was?
Bob Brookmeyer?
No, I don't think Bob was on that record. No, I don't think so.
I'm thinking of a different commission.
Right.
I'm sorry.
I mean, hearing that record for the first time live, out of body experience is a little, what was I, 18 years old at that point or 19 or something?
Which is the perfect time to get your mind completely expanded.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of undergrad was that. You know, my director, dear friend now, Chuck, would just be like, listen to this, check this out. You know, my roommate, Josh, who was encyclopedic knowledge, always listening to stuff. It was really intimidating. I told him this. I'm like, you were really intimidating because he's that guy. It's like, oh yeah, that's that record from 1968. It's got this person and that person. I'm like, oh God. I can't even remember where I left my keys.
Yeah.
Like, where are my keys?
Every class has one or two of those. And every class goes, why can I not do that? Because it's just a skill. That
I love Josh. Josh, I love you. But anyway, so I was finally inspired after Chuck was just like, we know you want to write. Why don't you write something for us? I was like, because you program music like that. Because we're playing Maria Schneider and Bob Brookmeyer and John Hollenbeck. And, you know, I can't stand up to that, you know? And so I finally did. And I wrote my first chart by hand. It was called Dancing. And then I contacted
Maria. That made
Maria.
it on your first record, right?
That was my first big band piece ever.
Wow.
And I went into that phone book and contacted Maria Schneider for a lesson.
Oh, you used the phone book to
find a phone number? I used the phone book to find a phone number.
Imagine that.
Novel or antiquated. And so, you know, my dad dropped me off at her Central Park West apartment. Yep. And I got in the elevator and got off the third floor and heard her voice called me. And she lived at the end of the hall. And I was supposed to be there for an hour. I was with her for 4 hours.
Oh,
and
man.
like beyond music, we talked about everything that that goes into being an artist and creating art. We talked about life. We talked about, like, it was just a beautiful, and it guided so much of who I became as an artist that I just feel like I studied with her, because what I got from those 4 hours really changed the course of my creative life.
So when you're talking about life, and this is the interesting thing, when you talk about life with these mentors of yours, did that impact directly kind of the way that you structured GRIOT Songs? Because I'm talking about, I know that you intentionally put those songs in an order. In a specific way. And that tells a whole story that's not just piece by piece, where so many albums are different ideas packaged almost individually. If they do it right, which takes a lot of love and time and thought and care, you actually find the way to draw that thread.
Yeah.
And so tell me about how the story of life came through in that griot. Because griot, for the people who don't know who are watching this, right, they're West African, pretty much oral tradition storytellers.
Exactly.
They'll get up at a family wedding and recite the history of each of the families in order to, and so it's like that's really an amazing connection, not only to your heritage, but let's talk about that. How does life define itself in that kind of thread throughout griot songs?
Emotionally. Yeah. Because all of those 7 pieces, it's not like it's chronological storytelling or anything like that. Okay. But emotionally, those 7 pieces can only go in one order.
Tell me how. Tell me why. And I'm not trying to,
I get it. I get it. I don't know that I can put it into words though. Yeah. Like, it has to start with that track, and then it had to go to Sails to the Moon. Obi Woman had to be the third, and then we had to catch our breath. So nothing there has to happen. I consider that like the first half of the record, and then we kind of shift into the modern fusion of the Lyle Mays tune. We have the expansive kind of like rock guitarish slow 3 swing of the path, and after that you just kind of get this palate cleanser at the end, but it's just in its own way very symphonic and dark, and it ends with like just nylon string guitar on the E flats with the harmonic, and it's just like it just can't exist in any other order.
It's energy curve. It's like watching a movie.
Well, you said you drove down that show and to open over the mountain to do the pit show. It's a show. There's a progression of energy that you want your audience to feel, because
they're chapters of a book.
Yeah, they have to go in the order that they go in.
They tell an emotional story, not a literal story.
That's cool.
We deal with this. Might make you cringe, but I deal with that a lot in marching band arranging, marching band designing.
Doesn't necessarily cringe.
Fun fact: I started writing as a marching band arranger.
No
Did
kidding.
you know this?
No, I had no idea.
Well, it's gonna blow your mind. I had dozens of floppy disks.
For those who don't know what a floppy disk, it's a 3D printed save icon.
Literally.
It's an actual save icon.
It's a save icon. Right. That's what it is. It was an old floppy
When
disk.
I used to work on my compact Presario, if you want to tell what that is too, with my Tower hard drive.
Okay.
But I had dozens and dozens of floppy disks full of arranged. This is how I taught myself how to write.
Yeah.
Is I would just like write marching band stuff by ear. And
That's cool.
And then like, it sounds like work, but I was having such a good time that Discovery was my first teacher.
Yeah.
And I've just told this to students at this conference. I'm like, Discovery is always going to be your greatest teacher, because when you're hungry for it, you're going to find a way. And then by the time I was a senior in high school, I was arranging entire marching band shows by ear, just because I had been training my ears for the last 5 years and I didn't know that.
My story is eerily similar.
Yeah.
I started writing indoor percussion music and marching band music. And then when I, got to school, it was like, oh, well, I have a certain understanding of these basic concepts.
Yeah.
Let's take that to this new music that I'm now being exposed to.
Correct.
Much like, you hear Maria Schneider, me being exposed to that kind of music at Berklee, and with Nicholas Urey there to like guide me through that. It was like, oh, arranging is a craft.
Yeah.
This is the medium. The music is the medium.
Right.
Let's dig into that. But that's really fascinating to know. And the reason I bring it up is we think about that all the time in show designing. Yeah. You don't always have to tell a chronological story. You have to put the listener on an emotional journey.
Literally that. And this is why I held on to this set of music for so long. I was like, this is such a perfect emotional journey for me. These 7 pieces in this order. And so I'd been sitting on that for, like I said, the most recent piece was Obi Woman. That was written in 2015. We didn't get into the studio until 2024. So that's how long I was sitting on these scores. Just like, I know that there is something special in this binder of scores, and I just got to find a way to get it out.
That's outstanding. Well, congratulations again,
man, that's
because
really exciting stuff.
We're all better off for it.
Oh man,
being
thank
out
you. I
there.
appreciate it.
Yeah, man. And you inspire a lot of wind band people with the wind band music that you've been writing. It's really cool to see the way the kids light up when you walk down the hall.
Yeah.
I mean, for those who don't know, we're at the Midwest Clinic in Chicago, and walking down the aisles with Omar is like, it's a roller coaster of hugs and people stopping him and pulling him sideways.
Photo ops
and signings and
it's very
the way that, and it's interesting is that you said to me something that really resonated with me, where you were like, "Oh, yo, we got to go get my stuff, but I hope you know that's going to take like 15 minutes."
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay, well, we'll see what we could do." And you said, "I got to be good to the kids," and I immediately went, "All right, I get this guy."
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, man. So, like, how has that been moving from? Because the big band rep that you write is not necessarily for high school groups and things like that. It's much more challenging rep, and the wind band rep that you've written is also extremely challenging rep, but also ranges a little bit more downwards.
Yeah.
So, what drew you to write music for younger populations too?
This is a really fantastic question.
Oh, I'm glad
All
I
of
just
the
made it up.
music that I write in the wind ensemble world is music that I wanted to exist when I was in middle school.
That's cool.
And you were a trombonist, right?
I was a trombonist, and middle school is when jazz ensemble became available. So I hopped in the jazz ensemble, and I was in concert band, and I didn't understand why these two ensembles didn't talk to each other musically. I was like, why do I have to go into a jazz ensemble to play a 7th chord and 9th chord? When I was 13, I didn't have that language. But, I was like, the harmony is different. The rhythms are different.
Yeah.
But, like, why? What is going on? Like, why? It would be great if the concert band kids who play oboe can also experience, the cool stuff that we're doing over here.
Have you written for jazz oboe yet?
I mean, kind of yes.
Kind of yes.
Yes, I have. Actually have.
Come Sunday.
The
Begin,
Motown
like, it's
Brown
all
Get
there.
Down. That
Yeah.
piece is a lot of fun, But yeah, that's kind of the journey. And so anytime I'm writing something for wind ensemble, I feel like I'm throwing pebbles into this chasm that has been created, a dearth of music told from specific cultural perspectives. And I hope that I inspire people to do the same, to tell their stories from their perspective.
That's
right?
cool.
I had a good follow-up with that. Oh no, train derailing.
No, it's okay. So you're talking about the idea that you were throwing pebbles into this story, this chasm, and that helping other people tell those stories. How do you draw the connection between that chasm of tradition, and what are those tools that you use to access your story when you were in middle school?
Authenticity.
Yeah, sure.
Honesty. I say so my bachelor's degree is in music education. My master's degree is in composition, and that's a very different, experience. And there are a lot of things that I had to figure out as a composer that had I had the bachelor's in composition, it wouldn't have been so trial and error, But I also feel like nobody ever told me how my writing needed to sound. So I just had complete freedom to just figure myself out. And so it's always interesting to me when students talk about finding their voice. And I'm always like, well, who else's voice are you using? Yeah. How did that happen?
That's interesting to think about, because influence is a big deal for a composer. I mean, you were talking about your influence that turned your third dimension into a real dimension for you. Those are the people that you listen to, and those are the people that you want to inspire your story. And they do because of the impact they have on you. But finding your own voice, not in spite of, but in collaboration with the voices of your inspirations.
But where I think their challenge or their block is that, and this is a problem with academia, and I talk about this a lot, is that they have the music that they love, that they listen to as they're walking to their music building. And then when they get to those doors, they take that music out so that they can prepare themselves for the real music, the one that academia shines its light on. And that's a handicap.
It is, because
100%.
it happens in Suzuki too. So I used to work in a Suzuki environment, and Vijay Gupta is a guy who walks around. You know him, I'm sure. He talks about when he was going to his Suzuki lessons, he would listen to Indian music, Bollywood music, and then they would they would, on the way to the lesson, listen to the Suzuki recordings. So that he was getting himself in the Suzuki mentality. He'd have his lessons, and on the drive home, it was all Bollywood music. Like, why do you have to leave the Bollywood not in the Suzuki building? How can that not be part of your voice?
So when I was studying with Nicholas Yuri, we on day one, he said, I write for the Metropole Orchestra. These are the kinds of artists that I've had the opportunity to work with. And it immediately changed my perspective on that, because he's having to meet pop artists where they're at, but also execute. At the end of the day, he's a composer. Whatever real composing is, he is that. But he has so much reverence for popular music and can find the nut in that popular music that I never understood taking out the headphones and being like, oh, I'm listening to David Bowie, but now I need to go study counterpoint. So it's time for Bach now. It's like, well, there's a thread that goes from one to the other, and we can use that to make something new and interesting and authentic.
Well,
right?
I think a lot of the reason that we don't is because, well, there's a gatekeeping that happens in higher ed, but there's also a fear of engaging with music or art that's unfamiliar, especially if you've got your terminal degree and you're the master of this thing, and terminal, that's such a misnomer. It's like you're not done until you're
Well,
dead.
it's a fear of vulnerability.
Literally.
And that's the challenge, right? I mean, you're going to learn and grow and get inspired and have different experiences for absolutely as long as you live.
Sure.
Pablo Casals, cellist, 97 years old, said, "Why you still practice every day?" And he said, "I think I'm getting better."
Right. Literally that.
Don't have a terminal degree and assume that it's terminal for your growth.
Right. So, just having the students tell them in order to find their voice, like first of all, you have to model.
Yeah.
If anytime you're learning anything brand new, you're an infant.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do infants learn to speak? You
They
talk
screw
at
up a
them.
lot.
Right. You talk at them and they babble. And you keep conversing with them until they're able to find their own way of communicating. And that's what we should be doing as composers, like try to be in conversation with the artists who inspire you. Just don't feel like you have to limit yourself the way academia tells you to.
And you should, as a professor of that, let your students babble at you for a while.
Correct.
Don't scream at them when they mispronounce something. Don't scream at them when they screw up the syntax on this sentence.
So this is why, you'll find students who really try to apply their theory 1 to the music that they're trying to write now. And I'm like, that's not why we're teaching you theory 1. But I don't think that we in academia do a good enough job of articulating that.
Well, there's a piece of creativity education, which we need to think about more when we're teaching composition, where composition in and of itself requires a lot of time for free play. And that free play has to be based in a conceptual understanding, a deep understanding of the media, right? I mean, we do this all the time in other fields. We do this all the time in every sport. Every basketball practice I've ever attended as a kid, it's been a long time since I've been on a basketball team, I'll admit.
That's all right.
But you know what I mean? Like they warm up, they stretch, they do a few drills, and then they scrimmage to apply the drill.
Yeah.
That scrimmage is free play.
Yeah.
That's teaching your students how to be creative in the moment and apply the tools that they're familiar with in the medium.
Yeah.
And when you've got that encyclopedic knowledge, that person who's hanging out with you and feeding you material, those are all things that you can absorb and start to apply when you play.
Sure.
But we're constantly redressing composition students to say, well, and we're not letting them take their training wheels off. They want to have them on. That's hard. That's hard. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but ultimately, I feel like if you're talking about gatekeeping in higher ed, it's because higher ed wants to be involved and prove their worth to their students.
Correct.
But proving their worth to their students is not helping them write their composition.
It's also not why we should be doing what we're doing. It's not about us.
Yeah.
It's not about us. It's not about your terminal degree. It's not about your accolades. It's about making sure that your students replace you.
Yeah.
And that scares people.
Who your students are is your credibility.
Yeah, exactly.
What your students do.
Exactly.
I think about just this whole conversation about like teaching composition, what that looks like. The conversation about voice in particular. I think about the old adage, which I believe is not apocryphal, though it may be, of Bernstein bringing a piece to Copeland.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, I was working on this. And Copeland said, great. That sounds like Beethoven. That sounds like Mahler. That sounds like Debussy. This sounds like you.
Yeah.
Develop that.
Yeah.
Take that thing and blow it up. I want to hear more Bernstein. I don't want to hear more Beethoven.
Right.
What
And
I would have given to be a fly on the wall in that
Yeah,
conversation.
no kidding. And that was a kind of relationship, like there was a mentor-mentee relationship, but Bernstein was not his student.
Right.
They were friends.
Yeah.
They were more than friends, if we're going to
Yeah,
go
well,
they
were.
there.
They were.
Yeah.
They
were more
likely
than
so.
friends. They were very much more than friends. It's not a very well-kept secret. They were.
No, not at
Yeah.
all. I think that the really cool thing is that you eventually, as a teacher, really become invested in the work of your students. It's always what we have to do. And it's why we love what we do, right? And we want our students' voices, as you mentioned, authenticity and honesty. We want it to feel like them and not like they're copying somebody else who got an A on that assignment last year, right?
And you have to copy to like build some foundational skills.
This is what I'm saying, is that you have to start as an infant to like develop your sense of self through the people who inspire you.
You have to copy marching band charts for 5 years.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, the best way to learn orchestration, in my opinion, is to get a score and take it down and write out every line.
Reduce it.
Yeah.
Compress it. Yeah.
That's a deep knowledge. That's when you have deep knowledge of a thing. And then
well, that's how you build. That's the only way to build deep knowledge of that thing.
Yep.
There's like the impact of the second oboe playing in this part of their register in this kind of a moment.
Well, another way to do it is to just do it and hear it live and have conversations about why it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's really interesting because we don't always have the opportunity, especially writing for large ensembles, to hear that, that feedback.
You're absolutely right.
So
that's like why a group like the NEC Jazz Workshop Orchestra is so vital, or like schools who are kind enough to offer their students large ensemble readings.
100%.
Because you'll know, and the problem with MIDI is that it is sycophantic.
Yeah.
It'll lie to you. It'll tell you whatever you want. Mm-hmm. It'll tell you that this flute solo could be heard over these high trumpets if you want it to be. You know?
Except there's 17 high trumpets and one flute player.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It'll do whatever you want it to do, but it's not until you get it in the room in front of people where you're like, oh, that doesn't work. And that's your best teacher.
Yeah.
That's your best teacher.
That's cool.
I had many teachers who would say, if you must use playback, you use it to check that you put in the right notes.
Right.
That's it. Right. It doesn't tell you anything about texture. It doesn't tell you anything about depth. It tells you nothing about how orchestrated harmonies work because the harmonics on these samples are all sorts of messed up.
Correct.
You can, like you said, you can make it do whatever you want it to do.
Right.
Good luck doing that in front of an orchestra.
Right.
Let me ask you a question about how you teach, because we're talking about teaching composition, and I don't know how much teaching or co-coaching with colleagues of yours, trading off scores and just giving each other advice, friendly stuff. If you were to try and teach a kid who was, like you mentioned, you always wanted to play stuff in middle school that was just not out. Nobody had written it. If you were talking to a middle or high school kid and you were trying to teach them how to tell their story, if you were trying to teach them to compose, what would you tell them to listen to? What would you tell them to think about when they're starting to explore? I
would tell them to listen to what it is that they're already listening to and to realize that that can be an option for the music that you create. Because that's what nobody really told me.
That's the nugget. That's what I was waiting for. I mean,
we kind of hinted at that when I was talking about walking up to the music school and taking out that music. It's like, no, that music in those classrooms, you're all getting the same information. The difference is that you're all different people who have lived a different life and live your own experiences and
it's consume through you.
Exactly. So like it's that music that we are not spotlighting in this academic space that needs to be central to your story, because that's how you're going to take that information, marry it with the information that we're all getting and create that thing that is yours.
How do we get the next Duke Ellington if we don't marry that information?
I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. Wow. I mean, and this is the thing. Like, one of my favorite artists right now is Samara Joy.
Yeah.
And the way she presents her story is the same way. She's got, you can tell there's influence from all the greats in the way she sings and the way she writes and the way she arranges her charts. And for me, the thing is that her story being, from the city, being a student of her family's voices, right? Because her whole family was musicians.
She's a church singer.
Yeah.
She came out the church.
Mm-hmm. And that's where her voice was developed, because that was the babble language she had as an early child. And then the way that became her voice and her story, starting to absorb everything else. I mean, even just not even her newest stuff, but even just the way she did Round Midnight just drove me nuts.
And even her pop arrangements. She did Someone Like You, the Adele tune, just with a keyboardist. It's like so powerful, and it's like indistinguishably it is the Adele song, but it is so her. And she took ownership of it in a way that I haven't heard a jazz artist take ownership over a fairly simple pop song in a long time. And it, like, there was no mistaking that both it's obviously her voice, but it's like really her voice. Coming through in that
and
song.
Adele's song was the thing that she was obsessed with that allowed her to put her voice into it. And so I love that message. Like, if you're going to talk to kids about being composers, it's to tell them to listen to what they're listening to now and make that a part of their voice. Don't eliminate what they're doing now and listening to now and consuming now.
That's the message.
Don't eliminate that from what your voice is.
Right. Don't let academia tell you that music is less worthy.
Yeah.
That's the big message.
That's cool.
Yeah. On that note, what are you listening to now? Could be any kind of music.
When's the last time I put something?
We're gonna get some plugs. We're gonna get some plugs.
I don't
for good
think
music.
you are. This is always the hardest question, because most of the time I listen to podcasts.
Okay. Are you gonna listen to this one?
I would hope so. I'll look at it if it's being videoed. Make sure I'm not looking crazy. Make sure that this lighting is doing what it's supposed to do. But Yeah,
Got that, Bell?
Yeah, we got it. We're good. We're good.
Yeah, this is going to be the most disappointing answer because I just kind of obsessively rotate through podcasts. And so,
When
and
music lives
That's
in
not
your
the
head all
first
day
time
long.
I've heard that.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. is
Music
because-
lives in your head all day long. So when
I
someone's
need
talking
to-
at you, it can stop
exactly.
for a
I
minute.
don't want to I don't want to always. I just need a little bit of separation.
Oh,
in order
yeah.
to just
Oh, for
kind of
sure.
I hear that.
Yeah.
I hear that.
I'll put on records every once in a while at home when I'm just working remote or something or not doing anything.
No,
I'll put on a record and just zone out.
sure.
I don't even know if I would consider that like listening to music at that point.
Sure.
Because it's just like,
It's just
it's color. It's just a way to turn off my
right,
brain. But
right.
most composers I know don't listen to music in their free time.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, listen, this has been a really cool conversation. I'm really grateful to you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you
And
for having
folks, if you haven't listened to GRIOT Songs, you should listen to GRIOT Songs.
me. I agree.
It's awesome. And if you want the double LP, maybe you can just email Omar and get a signature on that copy.
Yeah.
OmarThomas.com.
There
You
we
can get it
go.
signed.
Yeah.
Rock
There's a
on.
button for a signed double LP.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah,
we're
man.
really excited to have you with us. And again,
Thank
you know,
you.
just CommonTime Pathways is about youth and getting them to find their voice, find their journey through
Sure.
music, and find their way to higher education through their music.
Mhm.
And so thank you for helping us talk to them and remind them that their voice is what they're listening to now.
Absolutely.
And that's amazing.
And that academia needs you.
Yes.
You're needed in this moment. You
That's
know?
amazing.
I think the beauty of what we do as artists is that when we show up in our vulnerability and our authenticity, what it does is it highlights our intersections.
Mm.
But that only happens if we show up
Mm.
through authenticity, which is why everybody just kind of has to tell their story. And this isn't confined to people who are a part of an othered or minoritized group. Just the things that give you joy in life, those are the points of intersection that you find with other people. You know, I just finished a piece that's about Nintendo racing video games
Yeah.
in the 90s.
Yeah.
You know, and like that's gonna
I'm so excited to
and
do
I'm
people,
that.
really
you know,
excited
people
about
are
that one
gonna
too.
see themselves in that because they're like, yeah, I played the hell out of those games too. You know, so it's just about like,
You know what's funny is those games are getting re-released because they're old enough
yeah,
now.
I know, I know.
You know, when something that was popular when you were a kid comes back and is
Yeah.
popular again?
Well, I mean, it is what it is. You see all these grays, but yeah, you know, and
Mike's got some work
and
to
so
do on the
just like you know, be you, be honest, realize that vulnerability is what we do as artists, and you know, be brave enough and confident enough to stand in your story, and like you know, and it's our job in academia to make space for your story.
That's powerful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
of course.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.